All rise. The United States District Court for the District of Minnesota is now in session. The Honorable Stephen E. Rao presiding.
Good morning. Thank you. Please be seated. Good morning, new soon-to-be citizens and loved ones. My name is Judge Stephen E. Rao. I sit on the United States District Court for the District of Minnesota. I used to be able to say that I was one of the newer judges in this district. That's no longer the case. In fact, today is my 6th anniversary of raising my right hand. Performing these ceremonies is one of the best parts of my job. So it's an honor and privilege to be here with you today to join you in the culmination of your journey to United States citizenship. As I understand it, we have people from, I think it's 11 countries and 17 new citizens here today. In a moment, the lead immigration services officer from United States Citizenship and Immigration Services will read the names of each country represented here today, and I encourage you to stand if you're able to and clap and express your pride in your soon-to-be former country when your country is named. And finally, although this venue right now, because Mr. Brady called court to order, is a courtroom. Ordinarily, photographs aren't allowed in federal courts. We make an exception and we allow your loved ones to be photographed as they become citizens. So first, why don't we have the colors? I believe the colors are going to advance. Is that right, Mr. Cherkovich? Okay, so the colors will advance. Please be seated.
Good morning. My name is Jamie Jerkovich. I am the director of the St. Thomas Academy Middle School and a teacher of history and geography. I'd like to thank all the students, faculty, staff for being here this morning and serving as witnesses to this wonderful ceremony. Welcome and thank you to Judge Rao for presiding over today's proceedings and to the representatives of the Immigration Services Office, especially on this very cold day. And of course, on behalf of St. Thomas Academy, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to the soon-to-be new citizens and their family and friends that we have here to support them. We have 16 or 17 new citizens with us here today, hailing from 11 different homelands. St. Thomas Academy is honored to host this Living Civics lesson again. The previous ceremony was in May of 2013, and some of the upperclassmen were here to witness that. My geography students have researched their family histories and have written about the various factors that pushed their families out of their homelands and that have pulled them into the United States. For some of our students, this history is hundreds of years old. For others, it is very recent history. For some, it is even within their very own lifetimes. I'm sure our guests take great pride in their homelands. This cultural heritage is not to be forgotten. It should be a source of strength for you and for our country. My own grandparents left Croatia and Germany and passed through Ellis Island 100 years ago. And they went through a similar citizenship ceremony that will be observed momentarily. My family takes great pride in its own immigrant history. We are privileged to be a small part of your experience here today, the great American story of immigration, a story in which we all have our own chapters. We are connected by these shared histories, and after today, our futures are linked together as well. At our school, we take great pride in developing leaders and developing responsible, active citizens. In that spirit, we are grateful to our guests this morning for reminding us of what we too often take for granted, the tremendous opportunities we hold as citizens of the United States of America and the serious responsibilities that come with this privilege as well. On behalf of the community of St. Thomas Academy, congratulations on becoming an American citizen. And I'd like to invite you and your guests to a small reception in the cafeteria. It's back this way at the very end of the ceremony. Please join us at the end for some refreshments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jerkovich. Mr. Lindberg.
I yield to you.
As I read the name of your country, if you want to stand like Your Honor said, Republic of Belarus, Cameroon, Laos, South Korea, Thailand, Turkey, United Kingdom, Ethiopia, Mexico, People's Republic of China, and India. Your Honor, if it pleases the court, the government recommends the oath of allegiance be administered to 16 applicants for naturalization who have been interviewed and whose applications have been approved. They are permanent residents of the United States and have resided within the St. Paul, Minnesota district for the required 3-month period. They are persons of good moral character who are attached to the principles of the Constitution and form of government of the United States. The government recommends that the court administer the oath of allegiance as required by law so that the applicants may be admitted to citizenship and that any name changes requested in the petitions be granted.
What do you think? Should I grant that motion? That motion is granted. Please rise. I believe behind me, Mr. Brady will have the naturalization oath. So would you raise your right hand and read along with me? I solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I give up and surrender any allegiance to any king, queen, or prince, or to any state or country which I have held up until this day, that as a citizen of the United States, I will, when lawfully directed, bear arms or perform non-combatant service in the armed forces of the United States, or I will, when directed, perform non-military service on behalf of the United States. I take these obligations freely without any purpose of evasion and declare today that I am a citizen of the United States of America, so help me God. Congratulations, and please be seated. Again, welcome. Today is a special day for you, and it is a privilege for me to share it with you. Congratulations. Each of you passed a test, was interviewed, and performed well enough on the test that they decided to let you raise your right hand. You're also asked to demonstrate facility in reading, writing, and speaking English. You're subjected to an interview by an officer of the United States Immigration and Naturalization Service. Now, as citizens, you have significant advantages to immigrants that having legal resident status doesn't confer upon you. For example, citizens can vote. You'll be able to collect federal benefits as long as you don't commit a felony. You'll be able to become a federal employee and run for office. You know, each time I've done this ceremony, and today is I told you, it's my 6th anniversary being on the bench. But each time I've done it, it's been unique and special to me. The first one I did was in June of 2011. It was out, I believe, at Bethel College, and it was a huge citizenship class. I think it was probably 800 or 900, and there were 2,500 people in the audience. Although I'd been a practicing lawyer for 35 years, I don't think I'd ever spoke in front of 3,500 people. And I was a little bit intimidated. And as I drove up and parked in my judgy-judge spot, as my wife calls it. I missed that, Mr. Jerkovich, today. One of the court security officers came out to me and he said, "You know, Judge, we have a problem. One of the candidates is in labor. Can you come in and administer the oath to her so she can go off to the hospital and make another citizen, and then we'll go on with the ceremony?" And so I did. You know, her husband's holding her hand and counting the contractions, and in between we're doing the oath, and well, we got her done. The third naturalization ceremony I performed that summer was an emergency naturalization, and it was for a man from Ethiopia. He was over 85 years old, and he was suffering from a disease that he wasn't going to survive from, and one of his dying wishes was to be a citizen. So it's an honor to do this. In fact, doing naturalization ceremonies is one of the best benefits of being a federal judge. A lot of times, you know, I have to do stuff that people don't like. Most of the time, 50% of the people are disappointed, and sometimes people have to spend time with one of my friends, the marshals, on their way to a locked up facility. So it's fun to do something like this where I'm making 99.9% of the people happy. This ceremony also has great significance for me because, like Mr. Jerkovich, I come from a family of immigrants. I'm a grandchild and great-grandchild of German and Irish immigrants. My Irish ancestors came over here during one of the many famines in Ireland. My German grandfather, who was the third son of a blacksmith, so that means he doesn't get the business, came over here after World War I and after he'd fought for the Germans. He wasn't a popular guy when he got here. He also came through Ellis Island. He originally didn't speak English. He brought his only belongings with him in a cardboard suitcase. And I have his citizenship certificate now hanging in my chambers. He went to a town in Minnesota called Cologne, Minnesota. It was full of German immigrants at the time. He found a good German girl to marry. She made good sauerkraut and ribs. And he came back here to St. Paul. There was a little place across the river from where the federal courthouse is called American Hoist and Derrick. It was really just a big blacksmith shop, and that's where he worked for 40 years. One of my fondest memories of him is sitting on the patio of his house on Griggs right off St. Clair, not very far from here, listening to the Minnesota Twins. And so this man who came from Germany, from a country where football, this kind of football, is king, became a huge Minnesota Twins fan. He sure would like Max Kepler, wouldn't he? His son, my dad, became a United States Air Force officer, flew 100 combat missions in 2 wars. When he was a young man, it was his dream to fly for the service. I don't know how he did it. He flunked the hearing aid test 2 or 3 times, but finally passed it, and amazingly was never in a crash. My great-grandfather on the Irish side came from Ireland, as I said, during one of the famines. He settled in Farmington, Minnesota, and started a grain elevator company there that survived and was passed on several generations, and it was only recently that the P.H. Feely grain elevator down in Farmington was taken down. His youngest daughter, my grandmother, taught school and then later sold life insurance in the late 40s and 50s. Grandmother Millett was such a great life insurance salesman that much to the chagrin of her male colleagues, they made her man of the year in her company. So here's the point, and the point isn't about me and my family. The point is this. This country provided my Irish and German immigrant ancestors with opportunities they didn't have, just like Mr. Jerkovich's family. As new Americans, they came here. They built communities, churches, schools, hospitals, and businesses. They had differences. Sometimes they didn't like each other. But they shared a love for this country and a desire to give their children and grandchildren a better life. And in large measure, they succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. Each day you will enjoy the benefits and sacrifices that were made by the earlier generations of immigrants to this country. It's now your turn to enrich this country with your differences. The strength of this country is really its diversity. One of the most important ideals in our country, one enshrined in the Constitution, is the fact that we aspire to have a country where all citizens are considered equal under the law. Many people come to this country to escape persecution because of their beliefs, religious or political, or because of their belief that they will benefit from coming here economically, like my German grandfather. As any student of U.S. history knows, though, as a country, we have not always been successful in our aspiration of equality under the law. One of the best examples of this failure to meet this aspiration is found in the battle for equality that African American descendants of slaves waged over the centuries. In a famous case called Plessy v. Ferguson, Justice John Marshall Harlan dissented when the U.S. Supreme Court said that separate but equal accommodations were all the Constitution requires. He wrote, "In the view of the Constitution, in the eye of the law, there is in this country no superior, dominant class of citizens." There's no caste here. Our Constitution is colorblind and neither knows nor tolerates classes among citizens. In respect of civil rights, all citizens are equal before the law. The humblest is the peer of the most powerful. Justice Harlan later was proved to be right, as we know, starting with Brown v. Board of Education and so on. The freedom of being an American citizen also brings responsibility. You're not just here to consume the benefits of citizenship. You have responsibilities as citizens. One of your primary responsibilities was discussed with you earlier: voting. Democracy only functions effectively when its members, you, express yourself in casting a ballot by helping choose who will govern all of us. Adlai Stevenson once described citizenship and its responsibilities as follows: as citizens of this democracy, you are the rulers and the ruled, you are the lawgivers and the law-abiding, the beginning and the end. Now that you're citizens, assume the responsibilities. Democracy also carries a responsibility to your community. You have to be tolerant of one another. You have to work and contribute to your community. You have to be kind to your neighbors and the people around you, regardless of their religious beliefs, their faith, or their ethnic origins. President Kennedy instructed us that if we cannot now end our differences, at least we can help make the world safe for diversity. The strength of this country is based on its diversity. As new citizens, you can set an example of compassion and tolerance for everyone to follow. Relish the diversity that our country offers and make compassion and tolerance your moral imperative. And then you will be contributing to continuing the American dream for yourselves and your children. Now, another one of your fellow citizens would like to say a few words to you.
It's an honor and a privilege to call you a fellow citizen of the United States of America. This is now officially your country, your home to protect, to defend, and to serve through active and engaged citizenship. Together, we are a nation united not by any one culture or ethnicity or ideology, but by the principles of opportunity, equality, and liberty that are enshrined in our founding documents. Today marks a very special day in your life. You've traveled a long path to get here. You've sworn a solemn oath to this country, and now you have all the rights of citizenship. With the privileges of citizenship, though, come great responsibilities. And so I ask that you use your freedoms and your talents to contribute to the good of our nation and the world. Always remember that in America, no dream is impossible. Like the millions of immigrants who have come before you, you have the opportunity to enrich this country through your contributions to civic society, business, culture, and your community. You can help write the next great chapter in our American story. And together we can keep the beacon that is America burning bright for all the world to see. I am proud to welcome you as a new citizen of this country. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless the United States of America.
Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.